there is a prominent black person who becomes the face of the Roosevelt administration in the black community. Her name, Mary McLeod Bethune. She becomes the New Deal's first black official, along with Robert Weaver, the economist, who later becomes, many years later, becomes a member of Lyndon Johnson's cabinet. Now, one thing I think I try to point out in the textbook is that these individuals, these black New Dealers, played important roles, but we shouldn't overstress their influence. This is at a time when to be the most influential black person in the Roosevelt administration meant that you were the assistant to somebody who really had power. There were no black people in the cabinet. They called the black appointees the black cabinet, but that was simply because they were in a position to advise those who really had the power about policy relating to the black community. Now, the assessment of Roosevelt's New Deal and its impact on the black community, for the first time, you had an administration that was delivering a response to the Depression that benefited many black people. It delivered food. Sometimes it delivered a job. In dealing with the broader problems of the Depression, Roosevelt set up New Deal social programs that benefited mostly whites, but for the first time, black people were at least included in those who needed relief from the problems of the Depression. So a lot of the discussion about the 1930s in terms of African American history really has to do with, was the New Deal good for black people? Was it not good? Well, on a practical level, I think the question can be easily answered. Yeah, I mean, a lot of black people were thankful for the New Deal. It's not hard to see why. If you are in the rural South, for example, won't lean back against that. If you're in the rural South and you are suffering because, like all agricultural areas, they were suffering. There was not any money to buy their product. And blacks suffered more. Why? Because one of the ways you could deal with overproduction is to produce less, and that's actually what the government is trying to get you to do. Well, who's going to be hurt the most? It's going to be black workers, farm workers, because they're out of a job. The farmer gets paid not to produce, but the worker doesn't get paid not to work. But the New Deal can step in and provide relief. Now, that seems like a really good deal, but white farmers were objecting. Why? Why didn't they like this arrangement? Black workers out of work, they get relief from the government. Yes?
They're not dependent on white farmers anymore.
Right. This means that they have some leverage. They don't have to take any wage that is offered. So for the first time, there's an intervening group between black workers and white farm owners, or black sharecroppers. Now they can get relief from the federal government. So one of the controversies about the New Deal was that the question of, does this relief get evenly distributed to whites as well as blacks? The New Deal definitely helps in terms of industrial workers. Why? Does anyone understand what the New Deal did in terms of organizing industrial workers? What was the main problem that industrial workers had in terms of trying to organize? Why would they need government help? Even today, if you want to organize a union here at Stanford, with all the working class people here, the people who actually keep this place looking nice and provide the food you eat every evening. If you wanted to organize it, how would government regulation help or hinder that? This thing called the Wagner Act. What it allowed was it protected the right to organize workers. To this day, Bill Gould over in the law school, one of the professors in the law school, used to be head of the National Labor Relations Board. And that was set up under the New Deal. And what it did is it meant that if you go into a factory and you start organizing workers, number one, you can't get fired just for organizing your fellow workers. Number two, when you think you are ready to form a union, the workers at the plant can vote. And if a majority support the union is formed. And that vote is supervised by the National Labor Relations Board, not by the company. So now you have the government being in the position of legitimizing industrial unions.